In the shot, I want you to walk with us on some left, right, some movements, some improvement.
So our first trip was to Belize. So I organized this trip down the McCall River, and the McCall River was quite famous at the time because Harrison Ford had just done a movie there. Witness was the movie that he had filmed down in Belize. So I was going to, as part of my trip, we were going to do a canoe section down this area. And so when it came time, so I designed the trip, and when it came time to run it, 8-9 months later, I realized there was no canoes in Belize. So I bought some myself in San Diego and drove them down to Belize, only to find out that they weren't legally registered kind of flotation devices in Belize. So, which I didn't know, and the first group that went down the McCall River got arrested. So, but they were fine. They were fine. They got out on good behavior, and everything was okay. Well, Gap was my fourth business. Without getting into the gory details, I was kind of an odd child, starting businesses when I was between 12 and 16. I had 3 different businesses. And then, so when I started Gap, people thought it was quite unusual for a 22-year-old to start a company, but for me it was kind of old hat by then. I think it was just a natural thing for me to be in business. It's always seemed like second nature for me. And I got fired from Denny's and McDonald's at 16, so it was a natural kind of progression for me to want to start a business, because it was the only thing I was ever successful at outside of, because those were the only 2 jobs I've ever had, and I got fired from both of them within weeks. I was devastated at the time. I mean, now I kind of look back at it and laugh, but for a 16-year-old getting fired from Denny's, you can't make it at Denny's, life's rough. And then my second job after that was McDonald's. So getting fired from McDonald's during the training program, I might add, I never made it to the floor. Then you think that there's got to be other things that you can do better. And the things that I'd obviously been successful with was starting my own business. When I decided I wanted to go traveling, and the only options at the time, this is in 1989, the only options were to go on a resort or on a cruise or go backpacking. There was nothing in the middle. And the name Gap came from that, because we were bridging the gap between the mainstream traveler and the backpacker. I didn't necessarily want to go backpacking, and I didn't want to go on a cruise or a resort, but I ended up going backpacking because I was forced to. And when I went traveling and went backpacking, I saw a lot of young professionals on the road kind of in the same situation that didn't necessarily have the time to kind of plan their own holidays, and because they were young professional people, but they didn't have options. After looking at the way people traveled, people were really attracted to tourist attractions, right? Like you'd be attracted to Machu Picchu or the Eiffel Tower or the pyramids in Egypt, whereas people were missing the communities and the people around those tourist attractions. So my original interest was bringing people in touch with local people and cultures. I don't get a chance to get out on my own and really relive my explorer days as much. And I don't think I've really done a trip like that for probably 5 or 6 years. I certainly do a lot of travel and get to see things, but it's always with other people, or it's with an operator, or someone's showing me the way. So my goal this year is to kind of get out on the road, and no previous arrangements, just with a backpack. And I've chosen Japan because it's a country that interests me. For other reasons, and I want to get out there and try and see it.
Well, what is it?
And as well, I want to go to see the snow monkeys, so I go in the winter, and then I snowboard. It's my new thing, my snowboarding. I'm a snowboarding dude now. Ultimate trip, again, I think my ultimate trips are kind of I think boring to a lot of people. So when I get asked the question, I think people want to me say that I love safaring in Africa or something quite exotic and romantic, but I'm one of those people that likes to get very remote and get away from people, which because I spend so much time with people all the time. So I love Mongolia. I love places like Tibet, Antarctica. I like places that are extremely remote, but I don't think necessarily make those as the most popular travel choices for the average traveler. But when I decide I want to go traveling, I definitely like more remote areas. So that's what attracts me. Well, there's always countries that that open and close when you're you know, for instance, Burma. We pulled our trips out of Burma, but we were in Burma for a while, and then but we were out of Burma for a very long time. Colombia's reopening, Guatemala's reopened, so we always have to be ready to re-enter countries that are ready for tourism to come in. Like one of the areas that I think that's one of the most beautiful areas in the world where tourism hasn't been popular for a very long time is Kashmir and Ladakh. I mean, I would love for us to be able to do something, and we've started doing some research in that area, but it's been an area that's been kind of, you know, that's been tourist-wise, you know, not being offered for quite a long time. And I think there's areas in northern Vietnam even. Vietnam is such a well-traveled area, but it's a very specific route between the two capital cities. Like there's areas in northern Vietnam and Laos that are just completely undiscovered. And I would love for us to be able to do some of that. Eastern Tibet. I mean, Eastern Tibet, there's minority tribes there that have never, you know, that get very little to no tourism. So there's a lot of areas still that we can see. And everyone knows in Latin America, if you know Suriname, Guyana, French Guyana, all those, that kind of block of little unknown countries there, they're phenomenal. They're phenomenal places. But so I think there's a lot of places for us to still go. Colombia is a new country that's opening up and we're really excited about. But now, when we decide to go into Colombia, I was able to have dinner with the Vice President of Colombia and talk about how we can kind of go in, and so it's a different approach than, you know, than being possibly the renegade explorer, kind of going out to find new things. We're a bit more methodical. You could say it's a bit more sterile, possibly in the approach, but but we also still are able to get, you know, still be really creative and really innovative. Yeah, people are definitely are more active, and not only that, they're more active longer. People are being more active until in their 60s and 70s these days. So now a 50-year-old is extremely fit. Like we all kind of grew up, and 50-year-olds were kind of 50-year-old. They were quite, but 50-year-olds now are staying fitter and healthier. So people are more active. Between being more active, you know, the demand to be more active and to be more remote. Those are the two things that are definitely pulling people. The idea that the whole reversal of the, you know, the cruise and resort industry that kind of got people to believe that bigger groups were better. You know, the whole advertisements of bigger ships, like there was that race. You know, we have a 1,500 passenger ship, and and the next one was a 2,000 passenger ship. People actually started to believe that more people was better, and that the change to that now is what's happening, where people are wanting more remote areas, less people, and more active. So it's just the way things are now, and the way the world is changing. Yeah, well, you have to know northern Alberta first, where I did a 1-week survival, winter survival course, and it's. Yeah, I mean, it was a great experience. I don't know if it's very interesting for someone in Australia, but it's, you know, it's -46 at the daytime high, and you've got a piece of plastic, a box of matches, a flare gun in case you want to bail, a couple bouillon cubes to make, you know, chicken stock, and that's about it. We were able to have like a pocket knife, and you're out there for the week to survive. It was great. I mean, I made it. I shouldn't say that it was so easy. I mean, I talk about it very boldly, but I mean, with the 4 people that I was on, was doing it with, 2 of them didn't and used their flare guns. I actually saw one of the flare guns go off, knowing someone was bailing. But I mean, it depends how you decide you want to survive. I mean, some people decide that they, you know, just go into survival mode and, you know, don't do anything. And some guys try and go out there and hunt and get food and build a big camp, and it's just interesting. You learn a lot about yourself, and I thought it was fantastic.
We're going deep in the archives now. Take on the movement. Get the shot, I want you to walk with us on some left, right, some movements.
Bruce Poon tip, only drinks outer edge water.